Today's episode is sponsored by Sandals Resorts. What's up, Chillas? Back with two of my favorite ladies in the world, Morgan and Shari from Bridelawyers. Welcome back.
Oh, we are so excited to be back. And we have incredible news. So thank you so much for having us again.
You do, and I think I'm getting the scoop. I don't think you've said this on any other podcast right now, right?
Oh.
Did you say it on your own podcast?
Nope.
No.
Oh.
We have developed, obviously our third season where we obviously hint. But no reveal yet. You were our first reveal.
As an Aries, I like being the first, so I appreciate that.
You.
Yes. Well, so before we get to the big news, tell us about your show for those not familiar that you launched your podcast.
Yes, the Bridelawyer podcast where fairy tales meet the fine
Print.
And it's a fabulous way of making legal concepts digestible in the most romantic fashion. People love fairy tales, and a lot of people want their lives to be fairy tales. But with every fairy tale, there are, a few obstacles along the way.
No, we didn't want to be one of those legal talking heads. People want to turn off. So we figured, how can we do this and be fun?
Mm-hmm.
And we're big fairy tale girls.
Yeah.
We want the dream,
Mm-hmm.
and we just we'll do it. We threw in cartoons. But there's serious legal concepts and real stories from our clients and our friends. So, yeah.
You do help make contracts and everything less scary, which is why I love having y'all back on the show. For those not familiar, this is the third time now. Third time's a charm, right? The first time we covered what you need to know with your contracts. The second time we dived into prenups. And we're promoting at that time your latest at that time. I have all your books right here. I keep all your books on the shelf. And at that time it was, I'm getting married and I'm LGBTQIA+. What do I do now? But you have your I'm getting married. I am now married. What the hell do I do? What do I do? So I highly recommend getting these books. And with that, let's talk about two breaking news stories, technically.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So first breaking news is I am pregnant, which is a natural progression, especially for those after they get married.
Because it's the natural progression and because we're living it firsthand with Ms. Morgan here, we're producing our next book. I want to have a baby. What do I do now?
And started writing this well before I was pregnant. So, going through it in real time it's an experience. It's a beautiful experience. And it shows how much medicine has changed, but how the laws have changed from, when she had, her bubs. She's a mother of four. I'm one of her four. Yes. And, till now, for example, family medical leave, that really wasn't around when.
No. I mean, I have to tell you, it's funny. I had 3 pregnancies, every type of pregnancy you can imagine. I had twins from my first. She was what they considered
a VBAC.
A VBAC, which was a big thing, successful vaginal birth after cesarean. And they're actually not doing those so much anymore.
That's what I've heard actually from recent pregnant friends.
And then the last one, she was my supercharged, in and out in an hour and a half. Barely got to the hospital and normal, no drugs. It was terrible. The truth is that one had the best recovery. But in any event, the laws, I was a young female attorney in a firm with all men. There was no disability, no family leave, no nothing.
And this is like the 80s, right?
90s.
Early 90s.
Early 90s. Mm-hmm.
They took my office away. When I came back, I was put in a conference room. I was like I was the senior associate. I walked in, they're trying to put me in the conference room. Back then, and I think this is the funniest thing because it shows the times, the cell phones were these massive things that you had to carry in and out of your car. And I did. I took the cell phone. I went to the local beautiful park and I just sat and cried.
It's so unfair. Like, you bust your ass for so long and then to be punished for having children, like, it's just, I can't believe
Well, it's
it.
a different
But those
world.
laws have changed, and I'm sure they're constantly evolving, obviously, right? So with that, everything goes by state to state and country to country. But what are some things that we need to know when it comes to having that kind of protection with maternity leave?
So the Family Medical Leave Act, which is a federal act, it is job protected leave, not paid.
No money.
But
They always find a way to fuck us, don't they?
there are requirements. You have to at least be working at your job for 12 months and have 1,250 hours under your belt.
But you don't get paid?
No payment
But
federally.
it's 12 weeks of job protection. So they can't fire you. They can't demote you.
Have to give you
it's-
accommodations.
Yeah, and there's a lot of real details in that they cannot switch your position, try to get you to quit.
Which is great, but the unpaid seems so unfair still.
But
that's where your state disability law.
Oh, okay.
So each state is different. Jersey, where we live, in New York, they happen to have pretty decent state disability. It's 12 weeks. Jersey gives you 85% of your income. Not bad. New York is 67. So, you got to check out your state because it differs state to state. But that's one of the things that you can do to get paid. A lot of employers have paid plans, you know. And that's one of the things that you have to be careful because there's federal laws and there's state laws. But there's this one weird thing. A lot of federal employees are covered by plans that are federally covered, and therefore they don't have to abide by state laws. Even if your state has a great plan,
so tricky.
It's very tricky.
And the trickiest thing is life gets busy, but you got to meet those deadlines,
And the deadlines are important. So for like the Family Leave Act, you need your OB/GYN to sign on a form confirming it. And a lot of groups have different wild policies, and you have to get that form before you take the leave. You can't fix it after the fact.
Right.
Our biggest thing is there's so many deadlines when it comes to being pregnant, the employment laws, insurance coverage for babies and everything. You have to add your child on within 30 days. Otherwise, you risk not having them covered. And for you, the pregnant lady, that happens to be such a fabulous thing that under a lot of these insurance, how you have deadlines to sign up for a lot of stuff. Pregnant tends to re-trigger deadlines. And you get an extension. So if you missed signing up this year, for a certain, government plan, sometimes it's you get a reopening.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
deadlines are the big thing that we really think people need to know about.
And also for the brides out there, so many brides, we find some of them are even pregnant while they are walking down the aisle.
We have a lot, not everybody, but there's so many people are getting married later. So in the old days, you had 5 years, before, a baby was on the scene or even in your thoughts.
My mom was 16 walking down the aisle pregnant with me to my dad. But that was 1982, so.
I mean, it's such a different world. And today, we have a lot of ladies working later.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are doing things like freezing their embryos. I mean,
Which
freezing
that's
their
another tricky thing because you hear cases like actress Sofia Vergara, right? When she was married to, I don't think she got married to him. They were engaged forever and she froze her eggs. And
I
I know. It sounds like he is worth forgetting though. He put up a big fight with her for no reason. But cases like that, though, do make you think about those decisions, right? Especially if you're not, whether you're married, I guess, or not, like it's still a big deal and it's expensive.
It's expensive, and so many brides don't know you can actually cover that in the magical word,
prenup. This has become a really big issue. We have a lot of professional brides, physicians, lawyers, hedge fund people, and I have to tell you, one of the big things is a lot of them are pushing off. And the first thing they ask us, and it's weird, it's a first thing, is what do I do about freezing eggs and embryos? Can I put that in the prenup? Especially think about it with the embryos. A lot of women off. And then if something happens down the road, what happens? This is where state law is a little crazy. And I won't go into a big history lesson here because, I'm prone to doing that.
I love it, but I get it.
But I'll tell you what it does come down to is most states, including New York and New Jersey, they encourage you to include things, like this in prenups. However, they won't necessarily enforce them. There was originally, I'll make it real short, there was a big case, Baby M. You had a surrogate. She changed her mind. This was like in the 80s. It led to a nationwide laws coming out. We have very strong laws for surrogacy in Jersey and New York and a lot of the states. And basically what they provide is that...
In the Baby M case, she was allowed the surrogate visitation.
But they gave the couple custody. And that's what ultimately led. They said, wait. We're going to give more protection for those surrogates, and we're going to give more protection for the intended parents. So when it comes to prenups, there's this crazy sort of concept where lawyers, judges, they struggle. What do we suppose she changes her mind?
Like you can't force parenthood.
But
you can certainly waive it.
So one of the big things when it comes to those prenups is that they decided that we encourage you to do agreements. One of the parties up to the time of use can change their mind.
Oh.
So there you are. You can be a woman, you get divorced, you're now, let's say, 38, 40, and you're dependent on using those embryos. And guess what? Last minute, your ex-husband can change his mind. The courts really want to enforce it. They don't want to force parenthood, even if they say, you don't have to support the baby, you don't have to anything.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a crazy sort of status in the law where they're preferring this, can't force you to be a parent.
And that is today. Laws are always ever changing. And in this area of law, it's changing rapidly. So, that's, something to look forward to.
But it's interesting to me that they're like, you can't force parenthood and all this stuff. So what about all we'll just call it what it is, like the deadbeat parents that you have to go after them for, child support and everything. So what's the line then? Can someone just claim like, oh, you know what? I changed my mind. Like this gets into a gray, tricky area, in my opinion.
But I think it's one of those things that their theory is, okay, if you had something to do with that baby being born, you're supporting that baby for life.
Right.
Yeah.
Give it up. I mean, there's crazy laws out there that and I had this even 20 years ago regarding people bringing actions to compel payment of college. And it used, the theory was, your parents, they don't owe you a college education. Well, especially I can tell you in New Jersey, courts will force it. If that kid had an expectation, the parents have sufficient funding, they will.
Fascinating.
That's the thing.
And it's not just college, it's even trade school. I had 3 different cases.
But that's where the law, it's there's this legal concept, expectation, and it's dispersed everywhere, especially with vendor contracts, with what we're talking about today. This concept of expectation, and how it's like meeting of the minds, and that's where when it comes to getting married and, having children, you have to have the same expectations. You need to talk about it. And yeah, that's what we're here to do today.
Yeah.
To force the conversation.
Well, yeah. And something you brought up was being pregnant walking down the aisle, right? And I remember back in the day when I was a bridesmaids consultant, we had situations where someone was getting married and oops, wasn't expecting to get pregnant yet. And it happened. Like we were going to wait till the honeymoon, but it's happening now. And you already picked out your dress and paid for it. And now there's all these extra alterations and stuff like that you sign a contract when you basically, right, when you buy that dress, you're signing off on certain things. Same with the bridesmaids. I had a few bridesmaids come in and be like, well, I bought this dress that was a size 4 or 6 and now I'm fucking pregnant. What do I do? Like, this dress is definitely not going to fit in 7 months from now. So what are things that we can consider if, oops, I'm pregnant or my bridesmaid got pregnant?
When you go to a dress studio or salon, you are, it all depends on what type of service they're providing you. Is it ready to wear, or are you, getting a dress and it's, custom? They have to make it in-house, or they're buying it from a different designer. But that's just one part of the contract. Then there's the alterations.
Right.
And
which is usually a separate, quote, vendor.
Mhm.
Right.
Even the biggest salons, they have sort of independent contractors working for them, and they'll tell you, yeah, she'll do it for you, but doesn't work for that company.
This is also why they recommend going a size up if you're unsure, because you can take in, you can't let out.
Uh-huh.
And can I tell you, that's another thing people don't realize today versus my day. Today, seam allowances are very small. In the old days, they used to put a lot more fabric in a seam allowance, but it's much more costly. So there's less room there to go up.
It's so true. Yeah. So what would I recommend to a woman who finds out she's pregnant, let's say 5 months before the big wedding day?
I mean, it depends, like a lot of people, if they already, usually most salons, they're dealing with the manufacturers. A lot of the manufacturers are abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Abroad, they're on crazy schedules, when they're working, when they're not. You may luck out that they can actually change it for you because maybe they haven't started on yours.
Right.
Yeah.
You just got to, but legally, do you have a right? No. You just got to beg, beg, beg.
Mhm.
It's the reason why we encourage using smaller salons, because you'll have that personal, care.
Experience. Absolutely.
And she'll bat for you, right? Or he will.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's the best chance on that one.
Mm-hmm.
If not, alterations it is.
Yes. You can dress entirely and just accepting the fact that money, is long gone.
Yeah. Imagine a wedding day where each detail is already taken care of, allowing you to savor every moment. At Sandals, your dream wedding can finally become a reality. From intimate elopements to grand celebrations, Sandals offers customizable packages for every size and style. Plus, everything is included: your accommodations, gourmet dining, premium drinks, and all your wedding services. You get a dedicated wedding planner and an on-site team to manage everything from ceremony to reception. And here's a really sweet deal. Stay 7 nights or longer in a club or butler level room, and you'll receive their Sweetheart Wedding Package, completely on them. That means your ceremony, decor, and even a delicious 2-tier wedding cake. For those of you who really want to be sure, you can even test drive your wedding experience before you book it. Stop dreaming and start planning. Head over to sandals.com today or call 1-877-SANDALS to create your unforgettable wedding experience. So leading up to the wedding day, we obviously always encourage looking into having a prenup. It's really important. What are some other things that we need to consider when it comes to prenups and family planning?
I would say when it comes to prenups, as we were just talking about that, embryo ownership, discussing, having that type of agreements in place, when it comes to if you're going to use a surrogate, surrogacy agreements.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one. I mean, what we're finding, again, we got, we're right outside New York City, right across the water. So, we get a lot of these brides. We have a lot of professionals. And with that, they consider everything from their businesses and what's going to happen when that baby comes.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of couples, they want to waive alimony down the road, for example. Right? And alimonies are just the payments that one may have to pay the other to sort of bring them up to speed after a divorce, things like that. But now all of a sudden it becomes, suppose I take time off to have the children.
Right.
Or stay home. Suppose the husband takes time off. Suppose you have an LGBTQ couple and they're both taking time off or one's taking the job. You have other examples where couples move. Somebody gets a better job position, or maybe it's a better school system, whatever. So all these things are down the road, and we tell everyone you only get one chance for a prenup. So you really have to consider it. And if you're a professional, especially, it's a big consideration. What happens if I take off to have this baby and take an extended leave? If I'm the one primarily
Providing
for the couple or providing a big percentage, what happens if maybe my employer doesn't give anything and I'm very limited?
And happens if you're a couple who has agreed post-marital property is separate.
And this other big one where, we sort of encourage this one because, and that's the difference between, like we talk about, like online prenups where, you're sort of forced to make legal decisions when they're sort of giving you information, but you don't have that attorney to really tell you pro here, con here, pro here, con here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where, I know I lost my thought.
I'm
This
sorry.
is so me.
Well, I would say when it comes to like the marital property and when couples decide.
I remember. So we were saying we have a lot of couples and they think of a marital home. And one of the big things is that, okay, down the road, we'll wait till then. We'll either split and sell the home if we divorce or whatever. But when you have kids, it becomes a little different picture. You don't want to move those kids around. So often it's a thing that the custodial parent, if there's children, and you can put that before you even have a child, that they will stay in the home for either X years or have an option to buy.
It's all those details.
And it's those kind of details that, as I said, an attorney will advise you to do.
Not an online prenup.
That you won't get with an online. And it's one of the biggest things.
Don't put it in ChatGPT, I think is what you're saying.
That too.
Like we had our first time ever where a client took our prenup and ran it by ChatGPT.
Oh my God.
And sent me a critique.
Yeah.
And, again, as lawyers, listen, what do we tell people? You're not going to go online to figure out how to do heart surgery on yourself. Don't go online to figure out your legal. And, I mean, it's
It's
one
so
of
true.
we're forced as lawyers to take continuing education.
Yes.
And we got to do, 24 hours every 2 years.
So much like teachers and nurses, like you have to really keep up in your profession.
Exactly.
Right? But can I tell you, we do what every lawyer does. They wait to that every other year. And right around December, you're watching all 24 hours.
Yeah.
So now this year, I did 4 hours on AI and the law. And one of the big things they talk about is what they call hallucinations, where they're actually, AI comes up and makes up cases. They make up statutes. So it gets a little funnier. And in these continuing education, they tell you, I know everyone thinks they're really reading the real thing. No, not never, but they do come up. And basically they were telling you that during these education courses, that there's been official cases where attorneys have had ethics violations for citing in briefs in court without checking. And it gets funnier.
Crazy.
I'm also a California attorney, although I'm currently inactive. And the California bar now has a whole big thing about using AI because of
Makes
this
sense.
problem that attorneys are citing made up law by AI.
That is crazy.
Isn't it? So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
becoming a different world, but
Well, for sure. So for couples that are like, you know what? I don't want to have kids now. Like, I'm not thinking about it maybe down the line, or I know I don't want them at all. You get married, whoops, or you change your mind. Are postnups still a viable thing? Because I know they kind of get a bad rap or just kind of like seem maybe pointless, but is this something that we can still look into maybe?
I have to tell you, postnups are fine. This is where it gets tricky.
Mhm.
All right. And you know, as a lawyer, it's sort of like a weird concept explaining it. But in law, we say when you do a contract, there's got to be a give and take. Okay. Legally, we call this consideration. I'm giving you something and you're giving me something.
A bargain for exchange.
Okay. And there has to be something that we're each getting, which is called consideration. The problem is the minute you're married, and this is the craziest thing nobody ever thinks of, you're in a trust relationship where you're
Oh.
not supposed to be just thinking of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You act as what we call a fiduciary for the other one.
Mm-hmm.
You're in that period of trust. So it's like now that you're married, how are you sort of only looking after yourself in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we have situations, again, we get this a lot with the doctors and the lawyers, where maybe I'm just an employee, everything's going fine. After the marriage, I all of a sudden open my own office. All right?
Yeah.
Anything, if you open an office after and you don't
Mhm.
have a prenup, that's part of the marital unit. It is not.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing. But now you're married. What's the incentive for your spouse to say, yeah, that's all yours?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it gets very tricky. It's harder to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be considering the whole. So the judges, they really look at it closely.
It's, really scrutinized.
I'll tell you where a prenup is highly effective. A prenup is highly effective. I mean, a postnup. If one of you is putting money that's really all your own, maybe an inheritance or your savings from prior to the marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and you put that into a home, a joint asset. And before you do it, you consider doing a postnup at that time.
Right.
Mm.
That is highly effective because you're giving into something for the benefit of both of you that you otherwise wouldn't have done.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. But a lot of people, they're like, oh, we didn't finish the prenup. We ran out of time,
Mm-hmm.
and the next thing you know, they think, we'll do it right after.
And they don't.
They don't. Or it's trickier. It's just tricky. And, we have one couple, and they, again, they were cutting it close. The next thing you know, they're married and he doesn't want to do a postnup.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we've said this on the show before, especially in the episode that we've done about prenups. We know it seems scary. We know it seems like you're not trusting each other, but it's actually a gift you're giving yourself and each other as significant others, because it goes beyond even like, okay, this is like making us think we're going to get divorced. When it's not, like if you do, because that does happen, I can attest, that's a protection. I wish I would have had one, but it also protects you even just staying married, because there's so many other things that can happen. And I think that's the message I think we need to keep driving through to everyone, that like, you have a medical emergency, or if there's something that happens, like you have that protection with you.
The
Yep.
biggest thing I hear, especially when we go to wedding shows, is I don't have anything to protect. I have no money.
Yeah, right?
But it's like, do you plan on not having money
Ever?
forever?
Right.
And we really do when we go through our consultations. We not only think about the person you are today, We think about the person you are 5 years from now, 10, 15, 20, 50, because a prenup is not just about divorce. It also is about your marriage and how you're going to handle your finances. If someone is disabled, if someone dies, if you become separated, these are different areas to discuss, as well as the, topic at hand, when it comes to um not custody,
But just like childcare and all that.
staying at home, who stays in the marital home and whatnot.
You brought up inheritance. That's a very important one.
Exactly, especially when you commingle, because so many couples mix their property together when they get married.
Yeah, like we tell everyone, people are so confused with inheritance. But the big thing with
Mhm.
inheritance is whether it's before or after, that's your separate property, period.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you commingle. And what do we all do? We're all big comminglers. We
Mm-hmm.
just do. And then that's the other thing I tell couples. You can't just sign a prenup or trust the
Mhm.
attorney they're handling it, right?
Right.
Or do something online. You have to know what that agreement says.
Mm-hmm. Know your rights.
More than the agreement itself being invalid, it's usually that the couples don't follow it at all. And if the couples aren't following it at all, no matter how great it was, how properly it was executed,
Yeah.
it can be invalidated by a court when he says, you signed this thing, guys. Neither of you followed it at all.
Right.
So you got to know what you're signing.
I was going to bring up blended families. We
Oh, yes.
blended families are becoming more common.
Yes.
And it really does have ramifications when you do get married. Also when it comes to your wills, trusts, and estates and your prenups and how to tackle that concept.
Yeah. No, very different. And again, it's become more and more common to have those. And it's everything that, in a blended family, it's not unusual that you're going to have children. And
Mhm.
by having children, that you are going to want to provide for them, whether it's in a will or a trust. And it comes into the whole combination regarding prenups, wills, all of it.
Well, I moved in with Dave and he has 3. I mean, they're basically adult kids, now. The youngest is 17 and the other 2 are about to turn 19 and 21. They still live here with us, but, they're much more adult. But he has his whole life, 21 years with these kids prior to me, right? But, we've already talked. We're going to do a prenup one day when he finally puts the ring on it. But we agreed, like, I've had this whole life before him. I have my own business stuff. He has his own business stuff. And he has 3 kids that he has, their money and their protections and all that, which I'm 1,000% for. And that's why things like that are so important. So if you have a child prior to your spouse, those are the kind of protections you have to be considering.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's so
Even if you don't break up, but just if something were to happen, your kid's protected and you're protected, your business is protected, like whatever that might be. You're a pet.
Right. And that's where a lot of people who we represent who have gotten divorced and are marrying for a second, third time, we have to address those issues. It's like their concern.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So don't shy away from the prenups. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared.
Also, I think, prenups, they get a bad stigma because some people are associating them with prenups from 50 years ago. 50 years ago is long gone. It's not the same prenup. It's not the same world. It's not the same couples. People are so different now than they were 50 years ago.
Great point.
And that's what I think. I think, in other words, you have a family law really throughout the country under, we have 2 big systems, equitable property and community property. Under either of them,
Mhm.
it's very antiquated and it really doesn't fit with the way today's couples are. Because if nothing else, I think the biggest factor, it's not just the older age. It's not this, it's not that. You know what it is? It's joint working couples.
Mm-hmm.
So, the women have fully dodged into this, marketplace. And I can tell you that it makes a difference. They've been working. They have assets. They have retirement funds. Now, all of a sudden, they have something to protect. And that makes, to me, the biggest change, where the law says the minute you're married, you're sharing. And a lot of couples, that's the other thing, a lot of couples are living together before marriage. In my day, that was a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're sounding the alarm right now in all this with the alarms going on in the background. Like, listen up, this is important.
It's so true, though.
But it's true, though. That's such a good point, because most of us do live together prior to marriage now.
I mean, and it's funny. It's what, 90+% of our cases.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a very different thing because, and some of the couples, if they're on this like 1.5 year, 2-year deadline, we tell them you may want to consider a cohabitation agreement.
Yeah.
Because what couples don't think of is a prenup does not start to take effect until you're married.
Mm-hmm.
And if you end up breaking up, it has no effect whatsoever. But meanwhile, you're sharing a lease in many cases, right? You're sharing expenses. You're jointly sometimes funding this wedding.
Yes.
And that becomes a big deal.
It's funding the wedding.
And the states, they sort of are in a no-fault situation when engagements break up. Most of the states, you have to give that ring back. Because
it's funny you're saying this. That's actually my next question for you from a fan. I toss out a question to fans, like saying, hey, you're going to be back on the show. What are your questions? And Marlon Jeweler, shout to Marlon, reached out and said, if you were to break off the engagement, who gets to keep the ring?
It depends on the state. I know in New York, it's automatically yours the moment they propose and give you that beautiful ring. But
Jersey is conditional.
Jersey is conditional. It's upon marriage and getting married.
And it doesn't matter who's at fault.
Okay.
You have to give it back. Even if you forked out all the money towards the venue, towards everything.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we say, and people, it's hard enough to get people to understand the need for a prenup than is a cohab agreement. Usually the couples we get that are considering cohabitation agreements, it's the older couples that they've been married before, they have sufficient assets. They're the ones who usually come for a cohabitation agreement. But, a lot of very savvy couples
are in the know.
So much so that I'll tell you, we know a good amount of them that end up never getting married.
Mm.
And it's funny because in many cases, the public at large thinks they're married.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll even refer to each other as husband and wife.
And again,
there's rumors that Jennifer Aniston and Justin Theroux had that agreement.
Right. And it really depends on the state that you live in, because some states, if you live together for X amount of years and you demonstrate to the world that you are a married couple.
We call that common law marriage. Can I tell you, most of the states have gotten rid of it,
yeah.
including Jersey, New York.
Yes.
And today, the only way they'll protect any rights is if you have something in writing, and that's when that cohabitation agreement comes up. And that's one of the biggest questions we get.
We did more of a deep dive on cohabitation and on prenups on the previous episode with you guys. So I really encourage everyone listening to go back and listen to those episodes and to check out their books where they also deep dive in all this super important information. I hate to have to wrap up, but we have to wrap up.
No.
I know. How can we find you, contact you, listen to your show, and much more?
We're, of course, on Instagram at Bridelawyers with an S at the end, as well as on YouTube, same thing, at Bridelawyers. Our podcast, you can listen anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Or watch it on YouTube.
The Bridelawyer podcast. And our newest book, it is now available for pre-sale.
Yes.
But our official... On Amazon. But officially, we are launching it on Mother's Day because it's super appropriate.
Right.
For everyone, entering, going through the wedding process, going through the prenup process before they get married. It is such a beautiful journey. I can attest to that firsthand. I'm so looking forward to the next chapter.
Right.
And she's going to be a grandma for the first time.
And the only other thing we always say that, again, you have to get an attorney in your state. A lot of people don't understand that. And regarding prenups, each party needs their own attorney. So if anybody wants a consultation or whatever, and they're in New York or New Jersey, they can go to our website, which is bridelawyer.com.
And again, check out the past episodes with Bride Lawyers here on Bridechilla, because we got to be a little piece of Morgan's history, because the first time you were on, you were about to get married. The second time you were on, you gave us a post wrap-up of how the wedding went. And now you're about to be a mama. So thanks for sharing your journey with us.
Oh, thank you, Leah.
Yeah. And don't forget, you can check out Bridechilla on Instagram, YouTube, and you can also hit me up at Cleveland Leah on social. So thanks again, and we'll see you later, Chillas.